On this week's Nosebleed Radio, we talk NHL playoffs and NBA playoffs. Things are starting to heat up there. We interview Mike Engel of Baseball Prospectus, Kansas City. After the interview, we talk about the new NFL rule change towards the National Anthem, and then we wrap it up with our final thoughts. So let's get to it. Roll the music.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please?
You're listening to Nosebleed Radio. Here's your host, Tucker Franklin.
What is going on, guys? Episode 16 of Nosebleed Radio. I'm here with the boys, KB, Kieran, Brennan.
How's it going?
Toby, Todd.
What's up?
And Shane Miller.
Hey, how's it going, Roll Hawks?
Episode number 16. You guys know how we do it by now. We're going to talk about our favorite guys to wear number 16. Who wants to start us?
I'll kick it off first. I've got two probably of the best talents to ever wear the number 16. First one is fictional, so I'll give you that. The script told him to play really well, but it's Shane Falco. You might remember him as the quarterback who came in for the replacements during the NFL strike. Came in and played for the Washington Sentinels, played 4 games, went 4-0, gave us that great line. What was it now? I forgot.
This is a really good line.
Real great line.
Pain is temporary, chicks dig scars. I don't know. It was a good one. Something like along those lines. But
I just had a mole removed. Would chicks dig that scar?
Probably. I think they just dig all scars. That's
all scars.
But
tell them I got shanked.
Yeah. My second number 16 is Ryan Leaf, otherwise known as the biggest bust of all time. Actually, pretty good dude now. Apparently, he's in helping people rehab and stuff because he got crazy into drugs. But I think he will forever be known as the best that never was.
KB, you next?
Yep, I'll go. My favorite 16 is the new age flying Hawaiian, Colton Wong. Not only is he a really good baseball player, he is an activist with that volcano that's non-stop erupting. You guys looking at this?
He's anti-volcano.
He's anti-volcano. We're an anti-volcano podcast. Colton,
they're kind of cool.
But, okay.
They are kind of cool. Not when they're killing people, though.
Anti-death by volcano podcast.
Yeah, anti-death by volcano podcast. Anti-destructive eruption.
Yeah, we like
podcast.
Dormant volcanoes.
We like dormant volcanoes.
That's all. I'll get behind that.
You'll get behind that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but Colton Wong, he's raising money. If you want to donate, find out how. I don't know how. Go to Colton Wong's Twitter.
Toby, what do you got?
The traditional retired Celtics number, because I think every number is retired by the Celtics. Satch Sanders won 8 championships back in the 60s. I also have the Red Mamba, Matt Bonner, and he used to be one of my favorite players because I thought his name was Matt Boner. He played for the Spurs. He was the only white guy on those teams, so I thought he was Greg Popovich's son for a long time. And then when I found out he wasn't, it was cool. So I just remember thinking a whole bunch of things that were not true about this guy, and now he's one of my favorite number 16s.
I like it. My number 16, the first one that comes into my head when I think of number 16, Billy Butler. Country breakfast.
Country breakfast.
You know,
that's a good nickname, but it doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Not at all. Nope. He came out with that barbecue sauce. Do you remember? I think it was 2014, and they called it the rally sauce.
Oh my God.
It's not too shabby.
I feel so embarrassed.
They have that at Joe's.
You guys, I forgot Bo Jackson was 16. I have his jersey.
It's okay.
I'm
Last week I
right
forgot
now.
Pat Mahomes was a 15.
I'm not wearing it right now, but that's really embarrassing. I want to get that out there.
Yeesh.
Yeah, throwback to last week. Pat Mahomes, what's up, bro?
Yeah, hit us up.
Hey, don't worry. I forgot T.Y. Hilton was number 13.
All right.
And I don't even remember who I picked, but it wasn't T.Y. Hilton.
As long as we're all dumb together.
So
So the moral of the story is everybody makes mistakes.
Everybody
My
has
other
those days.
yes. My last number 16 is my NBA 2K player. He plays for the Jazz, number 16, averages 22.6 points a game and 10.2 assists per game. Not a big deal, but I've won a couple championships with the Utah Jazz.
So that was
Final.
MJ, LeBron, or Tucker's 2K player.
Tucker Franklin.
It's Tucker Franklin's 2K player. Won a couple scoring titles.
Yeah, but how many of those were with Scottie Pippen?
Oh, none?
Oh, okay.
The best player on my team
Okay.
was
Stifle
Rudy
Tower.
Gobert, yes.
All right.
So let's go ahead and talk about some real sports now. NHL playoffs. NHL's officially a no-fly zone as the Jets go down to the Las Vegas Golden Knights.
Oh, I'm pumped about this, actually. Like I told you guys earlier, I don't really care who wins the NHL anymore because all the stories were great, although I did like to see Tampa go down, so that was nice. But going back to the West, this is such an incredible story for Vegas. Even though we've talked about how they're not necessarily misfits or like a ragtag team, but still to have an expansion team year one go to the Stanley Cup Finals, I mean, you can't ask for a better situation.
Shane said they were misfits. I was listening to something else, and Tucker and I have talked about this before, how they might need to like redo the expansion draft. But like, I was listening to someone talking. They were saying that when this team was drafted, nobody really gave them a chance either. So the fact that they're playing out of their mind, like, it's not the expansion draft's fault. Like, they're just a good team. Like, nobody gave them a chance when they first got drafted. People ranked them, like, last in the power rankings, even though they had good players. And I'm gonna look something up real fast, but I think the, like, Penguins, like, wanted to give Marc-Andre Fleury away. Like, I think they said, like, they gave him, like, Fleury and a second rounder.
Really?
Yeah, you guys talked about that last week where Marc-Andre Fleury was known for being bad in postseasons.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, you figure you're going to get there anyway. So, like, why not have Matt Murray just be your permanent keeper? Kind of see, like, if you could get anything back for him. If there's no takers, why use a roster spot on a guy who you're not going to play in meaningful games anyway? So they dumped Fleury, and now he's basically God in these playoffs.
Dumb Penguins.
It's about time they did something wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
It's always nice to see that.
the way the expansion draft was set up, you could keep one goaltender, so they were either losing Murray or Fleury, and they decided to go with the younger option with 2 rings.
Stanley Cups.
Yeah. So
Going back on Vegas, I think I was with Shane with this team wasn't really misfits, but I think I've kind of came around on the idea, especially things that I've listened to, things that I've read, that even in the beginning of the season for me, I didn't think this team was going to be very good, and I'd sound almost hypocritical if I said that I didn't think that they were misfits, and I was being hypocritical when I said that I didn't think that they were misfits, because at the beginning of the season, I thought they weren't going to be any good. So, it's a cool story to see.
Yeah, I don't think anyone honestly did, but it's very cool to see. Did you see a lot of people are saying how this is like bad for hockey that an expansion team came out and made it to the finals in their first year? Like, what do you want them to do? Like, suck for 15 years and get moved to another city and then maybe get good?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I think that's
Well,
stupid.
that's kind of what Mikey said that the other week.
Mhm.
If you haven't heard that interview, go check that out. But he said that he thinks it's better for hockey because it gets people talking about the sport, and we need whatever it is. We just need people talking about hockey, getting it on ESPN, because ESPN really just shows football and basketball, and that's about it.
Yeah.
yeah, so I don't know.
So
I like it.
So let's go around rapid fire. Who's going to win the series, and in how many games? Shane, you want to start us?
Yeah, I've been super wrong like this entire playoffs. So if you're listening to this right now, I would bet the team that I don't say, because I originally had the New Jersey Devils going all the way. That didn't happen. And then I said it's going to be Tampa versus Winnipeg, and the blue team would win. There's no blue teams in the finals anymore, so that one's out. So I'm gonna go Knights. Ugh, man, it's hard to. I'm gonna go Capitals in 6. So throw your money down on the Knights now, because I just cursed them.
Toby, who do you have?
I'm in the same boat as Shane, where I've been wrong on just about every single prediction. Last year, though, James Neal is one of the few guys in this series, James Neal and Fleury, who have Stanley Cup experience, for this Knights team. And last year, Neal spearheaded that I'm here, I'm clear, get used to me campaign in the Stanley Cup. And so I think he's going to ride with that. I've got Knights winning in 7. Go James Neal. And go Marc-Andre Fleury, because at least the team that beat the Sharks will win it also.
What the hell are you
Toby,
talking
that
about?
direct quote.
I'm pretty sure his wife's pretty smoking hot, too, if I remember right.
Does she know he's
No,
gay?
it's him and Lord Stanley.
Tucker, you have a
He's
girlfriend.
here for Lord Stanley.
All right, KB, what do you got?
All right. So, unlike you guys, I'm batting 50-50 on my Stanley Cup predictions. My first Stanley Cup prediction was Predators-Bruins. That didn't happen. My second one was Knights-Capitals, I think. I might be wrong.
Sure.
We'll check the tape.
I know I guessed the Knights. So I'm at least, I could be 2 for 4. I'm at least 1 for 3. Or 1 for 4. 250 might get me in the Hall of Fame. It would depend on what my numbers were besides
Well,
Yeah, you probably need 3,000 hits
Some
if
gold
you're going to
gloves.
bat 250.
or like at least 500 home runs,
Yeah, there's some magical numbers. We'll talk about that on turn 2.
Leave it to the
Magical
turn
numbers
2
in the
guys
Hall
to
of
start
Fame.
talking about baseball during the hockey section.
Anyway, I'm picking the Knights.
And how many?
There. In how many? I don't know. 5.
Ooh, gentleman sweep.
Gentlemen's
Lord.
sweep. That's the best kind of sweep.
So I guess that means I'm up, right?
Yep.
Yee.
I'm thoroughly convinced it's the Caps year, so I'm going to go Caps in 4.
Oh,
And Caps not even a gentleman sweep, a pretty gnarly sweep.
not even,
Damn.
you don't think Fleury can get him one game?
Nope. Caps in
All
4.
right.
What about
Wait.
James Neal's campaign?
I like James Neal. Cool guy. But Caps in 4.
No.
Nice.
No,
We'll
Ryan
move
Reeves.
on. Oh,
Ryan Reeves
we're
is
not going to
putting
move
this
on.
team. Ryan Reeves is putting this team on his back. He's saying, "Get on my back, team. Get on my back, Nevada. We are getting this." And he's just gonna fight the Capitals, all of them.
Oh, that's one.
That'll be the first 20 minutes of the game. It's just Ryan Reeves fighting everybody on the Capitals.
That's one reason why the Caps are going to win in 4, because they chuck Nux in a Game 7.
Yeah, that was
You don't
dope.
see that very often,
That was
but when
awesome.
you do,
But the Lightning also chucked Nux in a game
Yeah,
7.
but the
And
Lightning are in the finals.
Weren't the Lightning down 2-0 when that happened too?
Yep.
Yeah.
The Caps really just controlled that game last night. Or
They
Wednesday
did.
night.
The Lightning had like one stretch in the second period where they got a ton of shots off, but as soon as they missed that, like right in front of net, the goalie was out of net. Holtby was just completely out of net, and they missed it right in front. I was like, okay, that's pretty much all she wrote there.
Caps here.
Yeah.
Caps here. All right, we'll move on to the NBA playoffs. I said before we started the show that I actually have no idea where any of these series are. I just know that LeBron is apparently tired because everybody on ESPN is saying how tired he is. I mean, you can only expect that from a guy who has carried a team for 98 games. So, what is that series?
3-2
3-2.
Boston.
3-2 Boston.
I'm doing a really good job of ignoring the NBA, and I've never felt better.
Yeah, you are, because there's some crazy good stories coming out of the NBA right now, especially from Boston, with like such a young squad taking it to LeBron like they are, and Brad Stevens.
Yeah,
Oh,
I-
imagine
had
that
no
a
idea about
Celtics fan thinking the Boston team is the best story.
Okay, give me a better one.
No, I'm just messing with you. It is the best story. Brad Stevens is the best coach. Taking these young guns, and really Jason Tatum's playing out of his skull. That's my phrase of the day, just out of his skull. And so they're just a good team. But it depends on who comes out of the West, you know?
Mhm.
I see them beating. If the Rockets make it, I feel like the Celtics will beat the Rockets. But if the Warriors make it, I feel like it'll be more difficult for the Celtics to win.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. LeBron is really starting to show his age, though, which, I mean, it had to come at some point, but he is starting to seem more tired at the end of games where he never really has before. You know, he's always been the guy who plays literally every single minute in a game, especially when shit gets serious like it is now. But even his hairline is starting to go bad again, so that's how you know he's starting to get really old, and he can't even control that anymore.
Spray paint wore off.
Yeah, no, did you see it? It's like super thin in the middle. Like he's definitely getting that like classic like bald dad where like there's hair on the outside but like not in the middle so much.
Yeah,
How old is he?
33.
Yeah.
33 or 34.
What? He's only 33.
Yeah, but I mean he's been playing since he was 18.
I know,
Yeah,
but like in people years, like that's young, but like in athlete years, that's really old.
Well, yeah, like in
Yeah.
dog years though, he's like 1,000.
He's
He's really old in dog
played
years.
professionally since he was 18 too. So there's a lot of mileage on him,
Yeah,
and
he's been going hard.
you, this series really just exemplifies how big of a gap there is between LeBron and the second best player in the world. I want to sound like Wegley here, just like going on a tangent about LeBron. But yesterday, LeBron James finished with like 27, 10, and 6. And people said, that's such a pedestrian game.
Yeah.
Whereas if Kevin Durant gets 27, 10, and 6, people are saying the Rockets won this game despite Durant's good night, you know?
Yeah.
But it's a pedestrian game for LeBron because we've seen him score 40 so many times in this postseason.
Well, that one game,
I think
44 points, and that was like his 7th best postseason game with 44 points or something.
Yeah. No, like, the dude's insane. And it's not even close right now between best and second best. But the one thing that does look like it's going to be extremely close for the rest of the playoffs here is this Rockets-Warriors series, which I don't really know where to go with it. They're playing right now, and the Rockets are up by 6. But, of course, the NBA leads hardly matter. Mm-hmm. That last game was exactly what you wanted to see from that series, where the Warriors played super well for 2 quarters. The Rockets played super well for 2 quarters. It came down to the end. It was a missed 3 at the buzzer to send the Rockets back to Houston, you know, with an even series. But the interesting storyline from that series, to me, and this is one of the more interesting ones that I've heard from the playoffs, is that Steph Curry is the most pampered superstar that has ever played the game. Because if Steph Curry plays a bad game, he's not crucified like these other superstars across the league. When he plays a great game, he's held in just as high regards as all the other superstars when they play their great games. But there always seems to be excuses made for Steph Curry when he plays poorly.
Yeah.
And I think that it really was going to take a team like this Rockets team that people actually thought had a chance to beat the Warriors for somebody to kind of expose that and expose some of like the some poor trends in sports media, especially on the basketball side, where I think sports media is just at its worst when it comes to talking NBA basketball. I think that's been an interesting storyline throughout this series for sure. And I wonder if players ever like hear about that and like there's a human side to that, like they ever hear about that and it puts like more pressure on themselves to perform well because people are talking like this now. Yeah. That's very interesting to me.
That's a good point you made about Steph Curry, though. Like, every time he has a bad game, you hear, like, oh, Steph's still suffering with whatever injury from, like, middle school. Like, it's still bugging him. And then he'll come back and have a good game the next time. And like, oh, Steph's back. But then the next game he'll have a bad game. Well, you know, he's still got these nagging injuries. Like, every time he has a bad game, it's almost, without a doubt, blamed on some injury, whether or not it happened in that game or whatever. He just gets every excuse in the world. And he'll throw his mouth guard at people. No one says anything. Like, he acts like a child, and no one says anything.
Steph is the equivalent to, like, Sidney Crosby in the NHL.
Yeah.
Where, like, if it was anybody else who was dribbling PK Subban's head off the ice in last year's Stanley Cup Finals, everybody would have had a problem with it. Everybody would have had a problem with it. But since it was Sidney Crosby, who's, like, the golden boy of that sport, everybody wants to make him out to be something bigger than the game. Like, there was no huge reaction to it. At least not from fans outside of Nashville. or fans who weren't Penguins haters, So I think that the NBA playoffs are always good for finding out what kind of sports media you just hate to see, because some of the stuff has been said about this postseason, and Tucker's lucky because he hasn't had to deal with any of it. It's almost insufferable at times because, man, the basketball talkers are by far the most opinionated.
I feel like on the subject of, like, Steph Curry, like, his success is, like, the fourth subject on that team. If you're going to talk about his behavior, you got to look past, Draymond Green's got the behavior issue. That seems to be the number one thing people talk about during the playoffs. And then the number two thing people seem to talk about is Kevin Durant's social media and stuff like that. And then the number three thing is, how does Kevin Durant compare to LeBron James and all that stuff. So, and we all know the basketball sports media world is you can't talk about two things at once. So by the time you get down to talking about Steph Curry being a relatively or a pretty pampered superstar, it's the next game has already been played, and you got to start the circuit all over. You got to talk about how Draymond Green behaved in that game, and then how just all this stuff. And so the fact that you got personalities on this team, and then I forgot about people talking about Steve Kerr's job coaching the team. So really, Steph Curry's success is the fifth thing. So I feel like people just knock it up to injuries because they're like, that's an easy excuse. We don't have to talk about that. His knee or his ankles are bothering him. Yeah. It's on to the next thing. Draymond Green pushed James Harden.
Yeah. That or he'll just bring Riley up to the podium and everybody kind of goes, she's cute. He gets a pass.
We'll do the same thing what we did for the hockey, but we'll do the matchups here. Who do you think will be in the finals this year? Shane, you want to start us?
Yeah, I got the Celtics winning in 7 because I still think the Cavs will win in Cleveland, and then they'll go back to Boston, and the Celtics will do what they do in Boston and go 11-0 in their arena. And then I still think it's going to be the Warriors coming out of the West, even though the Rockets are playing a lot better than they did the first two games. I think eventually the Warriors will get their stuff together and bring it to them, but I've been wrong before. They're just one of those teams where I don't bet against them until they prove me wrong, so I'm going to keep betting on them. And then between the Warriors and the Celtics, I think you got to take the Warriors, but I think it'll go 5 or 6.
Toby?
It's tough to make predictions because I've been wrong when predicting about my team. I do think the Celtics will get it done in the Eastern Conference. This Warriors-Rockets series is a real toss-up. I think the one difference is that the Warriors have Kevin Durant, and the Rockets do not have a Kevin Durant. So I am going to pick the Warriors. I think even if it goes 7, the Warriors have shown that they're not afraid to go on the road. Mm-hmm. Road Warriors, pun intended. And, in the finals, the difference between playing against LeBron and playing against Kevin Durant as terms of teams is that Kevin Durant also has a team with him instead of just playing that one superstar. So the Warriors, to me, still the favorites because despite all the stuff that we said about Steph Curry, still a tremendous player, a top 5 player in the world. Klay Thompson, still a tremendous player. Draymond Green, tenacious defender, even if he is a ginormous douchebag. So I think Warriors, my favorites as of right now. Yeah, that's where I have to stand.
Toby just said the Warriors were his favorite team. Interesting.
76ers are my least favorite team.
Okay.
Oh, no, he's my new favorite team?
Yeah, that's what you just said. You said the Warriors are my favorite.
To win it all.
You didn't say that.
So I'm going to take the Warriors are my favorite team. I'm not taking that back. The Warriors are my favorite team. I'm taking them I'm going to take them to beat the Rockets. I'm going to take the Celtics over the Cavaliers, and then I'm going to take the Warriors in 6.
All right. That leaves me. I like LeBron James. He's a good at playing basketball.
Hot take.
Cavs in 7. Rockets in 7, Cavs in 7.
Wow. All right.
As much basketball as you can get, right?
Yeah, no, well, the NBA is like that, where all their series seem to go 7 games because they like to get as much money as they can.
Well, who doesn't like money?
That is, nobody does not like
Exactly.
money. I just had this idea, just came to me right now. What if every team you eliminate in the playoffs, you could take one player from that team?
Oh, like you used to do in the bigs. Did you ever play the bigs?
Yeah.
Yeah, like you used to do in the... Yeah. Oh, that'd be really cool.
We would end up with a
The
bunch of
Cavs
really
suck
shitty
so hard
teams.
now.
Keep losing in the playoffs.
No, but, like, I mean, Cleveland would have, like, Victor Oladipo. That would help LeBron out. They'd have DeMar DeRozan. That would help LeBron out.
The
So,
Celtics, Embiid and Giannis.
Yeah,
the
Celtics would be
Warriors,
good.
Warriors would have Anthony Davis and...
Oh my God.
And
Oh
like,
my-
what? LaMarcus Aldridge or Kawhi Leonard?
You know,
Someone like
the Warriors
that.
don't even have to play small. That's. I think the Warriors still win the championship if that happens.
I hate the
If
Warriors.
their
There's a monopoly.
their starting five is Steph, Clay, KD, Draymond, Anthony Davis. Oh my God!
It's like an all-star game.
That's like the dream team we send to the Olympics.
You know, I actually heard, because I'm notorious around some people for not liking the
B.I.G.
Warriors. But somebody made an interesting point to me, and they said, when you look back at like the history of the NBA, this is a league that's been dominated by one team at a time, you know? Like, the Celtics won all the championships in the 60s. You had the Lakers and Celtics where they played just about every year in the finals. So this isn't like a new thing to the NBA necessarily, where the Warriors are kind of this dynasty and monopoly. And I think that's why some people don't have a whole lot of interest in the NBA, because there are so many dynasty teams. But he said, when you think about it 15 to 20 years from now, you'll think back to these Warrior teams and think about how good they were. So I still am not going to cheer for them at all. You know, at least not until Durant's off the team, because that was a pretty pansy move. But it is interesting thinking about it now, as opposed to when we're older, telling stories to our kids if they enjoy basketball or these sports about the teams we saw growing up, you know?
While we're on the subject of basketball, I've been doing some research on NBA teams, trying to decide which one I want to pledge my allegiance to. America is actually the only thing I pledge my allegiance to. Shout out USA. But
Not Nation.
Shout out Rock Nation.
This is Rock Nation. Pledge your allegiance.
So I'm trying to find a new team. I've been doing some research, running some Twitter polls. My final Twitter poll will go out tomorrow, which is Friday, the 25th. It will feature. It's not the final one. It'll be the semifinals of the East and semifinals of the West. Then I will narrow down to my final 4 teams, and I will pick one in a video that will be coming up shortly, just like a signing day video.
You're
we'll
putting
have
more
that.
thought into your favorite basketball team than most people put into picking a new car.
Yeah,
And I appreciate it.
Yeah, I take this stuff seriously. So, as of right now, I believe the Knicks are in that Final 4, the Bulls, the Wizards, and maybe the Bucks. That might be my Final 4 right now, but we'll see. There's still a lot to do. I'll tweet out my Final 4 once I run all the tests, crunch the numbers again, and there'll be a tweet out there. Just make sure you're looking for it. If you're an NBA fan, make sure to vote on my polls. Make sure you let me know who your favorite team is. Maybe I'll be a fan of your team.
Knowing Tucker's like he's going to choose a favorite team, and then Kansas City's going to get a basketball team, so all this work's going to go to waste.
Yeah, because as soon as Kansas City gets one, I'll probably just jump ship and go to that Kansas City team.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
We'll all be KC fans.
That's true. We'll go ahead and move on to our interview with Mike Engel of Baseball Prospectus, Kansas City. KB and I sit down, we talk a little baseball about him. It's turn 2 guys on Nosebleed Radio talking some ball. So here he is, Mike Engel. I'd like to welcome on Mike Engel from Baseball Prospectus, Kansas City. And
co-host of the Kansas City Baseball Vault podcast. Mike, how you doing today?
Doing pretty good. Ran some errands, got a cut, the usual kind of fun stuff, but ready to talk some ball.
Good. Now, as we're talking right now, the Royals are taking on the Rangers. First pitch started just not too long ago. What are your kind of keys to that series to win that series?
Well, we've seen basically every series. They've only won 2 series now, which is kind of embarrassing,
right.
But the Rangers aren't doing very well either. So the Royals have an opportunity to maybe take a couple of games from a team that's in the same kind of pitiful position that they are. It's going to be starting pitching. Danny Duffy's going tonight. He has not had a very productive season yet. There's a lot of people speculating about pitch tipping, and if that is something that he's been working on and making an adjustment on, then maybe this will be the kind of game that gets him turned around. But Jake Junis went yesterday, so he's been by far their best starting pitcher. And, if you leave it up to the guy behind him, who all have ERAs above 5, it could be rough. So starting pitching is going to be a big key. We've seen Alex Gordon and Jorge Soler both start to kind of come back to earth a bit. So if they can stay productive, that would be great. Gordon's scratch today, kind of a late scratch. I think he hurt himself on that crazy Superman catch yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
He's already had hip issues, but really it's going to be starting pitching is the most important.
Right, we had Bob Fesco on last week, and I talked to him about Danny Duffy and what's all going on there, and he really thought it was in Danny Duffy's head is what it was. I saw some pictures on Twitter earlier today about Danny Duffy's pitch tipping, how he's getting more extended on off-speed pitches, but it didn't look like that to me.
Yeah, I didn't really notice, and a lot of that stuff is really tough to pinpoint when you're just looking at clips of replays, trying to go frame by frame on your laptop. You really need, a lot more data for that. But, I know Brian McRae had mentioned something like that. It was a concern after opening day for Duffy, and he's kind of mixed between wind up and stretch and gone back and forth. That as kind of a reason, as a concern of his. I think it's just command, really. Jesse Newell from the Star had a really good post today about a lot of good evidence that the delivery and the mechanics don't look that much different, but the way he's commanding the slider in particular is troubling. It's getting hammered, whereas 2 years ago it was a great pitch, and last year it was a pretty good pitch, and this year it's like the worst pitch in the league. So. Right. I don't know how much of that is maybe he's psyched out throwing it right now. That could definitely be it. We know from his history that he's kind of tinkered a bit. That slider was something he kind of threw in there in like 2013 or 2014. But I don't know. I always hate to say it's just in someone's head. I feel like that's a little easy to say that someone's psyched out. I think it's just maybe the grip's off a little bit. Maybe he just lost the feel for it for a moment and has one adjustment and it's back. Or maybe it's a lost pitch. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, my buddy Kieran here, he's a Cardinals fan. I was happy to see the Royals take 2 or 3 from St. Louis, especially in St. Louis. I always like that. What do you think was the big reason that they won that series?
They kind of got a lot of timely hitting that's escaped them over the last, basically all year. Especially, they were down 2-1 for a good chunk of that game, and then they managed to, get a base hit. They took an extra base, moved the runner over, and got a sac fly, tied it up. They go to extras, and they score 3 in that top of the inning. Mm-hmm. But another big point in all of that is the bullpen was right there to hold it. They kept St. Louis from scoring after Junis left the game, and Junis only pitched 5 innings. So, they had to cover the 6th, 7th, 9th before they got to Herrera to close it out. And that's something that's really kind of improved as the season's gone on. They were so bad between Brandon Maurer and Blaine Boyer and Justin Grimm that first month. But they've kind of found this neat balance with Jason Adam coming up. Brad Keller is kind of awesome. Tim Hill's effective in good spots.
Do you think Keller has the best hair in baseball?
I don't know. I think he's up there. I think he's in a pretty good spot, but
Yeah.
I don't know about the best, but
Yeah.
I think he's good.
You can't forget about Drew Butera too, because he dyed his hair pink for that bet for that kid, which is pretty neat to see.
Yeah, and he ended up getting the big hit in that 10th inning, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, I think bullpen's really shored itself up, and that's a big help. You know, that's if you do get a good start, you can hold it.
And I think that's a big key to the Royals, how they're going to be able to have their successes, this bullpen to really start coming around. They kind of had a little bit of hitting at the beginning part of the season, but there was no way that they were going to sustain any type of lead with that bullpen that they had.
Yeah, I mean, it was like, it was just miserable. I mean, it was shades of like 1999 out there, like New York's Burgos trying to save games, and that never worked out very well, let me tell you. So they're pitching a lot better. Justin Grimm, I think, is starting rehab assignments, so maybe the back problem was actually a back problem and he's not just ineffective. Mm-hmm. But I kind of feel like they've got a pretty decent little mix here of most of those guys are all rookies. Keller, Hill, Birch Smith, Jason Adam, obviously those guys are all rookies, and they fear nothing. They just go out and try it, and it's paying off so far, at least in the last month.
Yeah. Kieran, did you have any takeaways from that series?
One thing I saw was Jake Junis I knew he was good watching games with you and with the other fans, but I didn't know he was quite that good. But one thing I remember you saying was that early in the season was you didn't trust anybody in the bullpen. Is there anybody that, like, you trust right now in the bullpen more than anybody else? Like, for a Cardinals fan right now, it'd probably be Jordan Hicks. Is there anybody that, in a tight game situation, you would like to see in the game?
I mean, right now, Keller's definitely vaulted up into that rank. He's definitely, I would say he's your kind of setup man. So he's going to be playing the D and HDH, that old group, but just K. I mean, obviously Herrera is, he's been there before. He's been a part of playoff teams. He's pitched in huge situations. But I really like what Keller's done. He's definitely the guy I trust the most. As far as, I mean, Blaine Boyer, I definitely trust the least. But I would say Keller has really made an LFR coming out of that bullpen as, someone who can come out and hold the lead and get out of a jam. And he's 22 years old. He was pitching in Double-A last year. I mean, it's pretty incredible. But the Royals are really high on him, and he's showing why.
Another thing I wanted to ask you about is, what do you think about Shohei Ohtani? I know I tried to go to the game where he was going to pitch against Kansas City and he got rained out. It's kind of disappointing. Yeah. I wanted to see him pitch, but what do you think of him so far this season?
He's pretty awesome. And the thing I like most about him is how he struggled at different times in spring training, and all these guys were coming out of the, saying, oh, he's not ready. He's AAA bad at best. And then the season actually starts, and he's out doing a one-hitter in his second start,
right?
And he's hitting a homer in 3 or 4 games in a row. And it's just like, he's all of, 22, 23 years old?
Right.
And he's already this good. I mean, I think it's awesome. I mean, I sure wish he had found a way to make it to the Royals, but, that's just not how it ends up working. But I think he's great for the game. He's exciting, and baseball's always had trouble marketing its best players. I mean, how many people on the street really would recognize Trout?
Not a lot.
That's ridiculous. And you could pick LeBron James out from anything, or Tom Brady, and it's like it's really easy, and baseball doesn't really embrace those guys. So I think Ohtani is fantastic. I hope he keeps it up. I hope the league doesn't adjust too much to him, because a guy like that who can perform well on the mound and at the plate that's kind of legendary in a way. And I think that's pretty interesting for anybody watching casually, or the hardcore fans. I think it's just really fun to watch.
Before we completely go into national topics, how long do you think it'll be before the Royals have a yard sale and start selling everybody?
I don't know. I mean, a lot of that, it always depends on how the market shakes up. It's, the key thing is timing. And right now, I think there are probably a few teams that aren't quite sure that they're in the mix. Like Atlanta, I feel like they're playing well enough that they will probably be in that mix, but they're 2 bad weeks from, just falling back into the middle of the pack. And so do they want to go out and try to trade for somebody right now when they have, a good farm system and they're maybe a year ahead? I don't know. But I would say that some of those conversations are probably already starting. I would say it's probably more along the lines of like, this guy would be available. There's a range of things we would like. And as the next couple weeks go on, you get into June, late June, even into July, then late June is probably when you're going to start to hear a lot of these things kind of pick up.
We've seen that in the AL Central, the Indians have, over the recent years, have pretty much run that division. Why do you think they are struggling so much with just sitting now at 1 game over 500?
Andrew Miller's been hurt at least once, I think, and he's even had a couple of games where he didn't come out and do very well. But, a lot of teams can kind of, one bad stretch can really kind of color how that goes. I mean, if you go 2-8 right now, how much does that impact how your standings look? And that's really just 2 bad weeks. But, I think of the Cubs last year where I think they were floating around 500 for the first couple of months, and then they come out and they win the division anyway. So I think they're going to be fine, as long as they have Lindor and they have Kluber. I think they're going to be fine. I mean, they've got enough talent. Plus, they get to play the AL Central a lot. And the AL Central is very bad. So they're going to be able to clean up on a lot of those games, too. So I think in the end they're going to be fine. If 1 game over, it's probably disappointing, but it's not like they're below 500 and they're chasing the Twins or anything. They're still in the lead. They're still the team to beat, and they still have the most talent in the division. So they're going to be fine. I think it's just one of those slow starts.
Right. In the AL East, who do you see winning that division, the Yankees or the Red Sox?
I don't know. That's tough. Those are, they're juggernauts. I would say that... I don't know. That's a really tough question. I think it's going to be like 93, way back. The Braves and Giants both won 100 games, but only one of them could win the NL West. And it's that kind of territory. Thank God there's a wild card for those teams. It would kind of be a shame, even though I'm never going to shed a tear if the Yankees or Red Sox make the playoffs, but if you win 100 games, you should make the playoffs. Find a way to make it. I don't know. I would probably give the edge. I made a preseason prediction but I don't recall what it was. I would give the edge to the Red Sox right now, but they're both going to make the playoffs.
Right.
I think they're just so good that it's pretty safe to pick. Both of them to make it. Now, who's going to win the division? I think Boston's ahead now, so I'll Boston.
I like that pick of Boston. The Boston's got those great hitters, J.D. Martinez. Mookie Betts is just playing out of his mind right now, statistically, and all the major statistics better than Mike Trout. And Mike Trout is having one of the greatest years when it comes to WAR ever.
Yeah, and that's, that was kind of like a snarky question on Twitter for a while. Is Mookie Betts better than Trout? He's step for step with them. For a team like the Red Sox who didn't hit a lot of homers last year, and now they're just, Betts has 15 homers. It's not out of nowhere because he's a great player, but it's just kind of like, okay, he's on pace for 50 home runs. Well, all right. They're fun. I don't begrudge either team, even though historically I just don't like them because they're Red Sox and Yankees. But they've got Judge is fun, Stanton's fun, Betts is fun, Andrew Benintendi is really fun, J.D. Martinez is just mashing, and it'll be intriguing to see whoever comes out of that, and it'll be really fun to kind of see how Betts paces against Trout the rest of the year too. So interesting division, great teams. I wish we had some of those players.
Kind of still talking about the AL East here. One of my favorite players in the minors right now is Vlad Jr. Do you think there's a chance to see in some major league time before the year's up?
Yeah, I think it's almost to a point where even if they want to keep him down, there's just a point where a guy plays so well you just can't avoid it. And we've already seen Juan Soto come up 19. We've seen Ronald Acuna come up, and if the talent's there, there's only so much that you can get away with saying, well, he's just not ready here, he's just not ready there, to fudge with the time. If the guy's ready, I think he's ready, and I'm a little surprised they haven't just gone with it, but at the same time, the Blue Jays don't really have a ton to play for, so I understand it, but I think he's definitely got to be up at some point, even if it's like something in July, they're struggling, and the Blue Jays want to come out and they want to, compel some fans to come out and see the newest guy. If that is worth a bump of 10,000 tickets a 2-week period, I mean, maybe that works out. But he's definitely ready. So I don't see any reason why, from a talent standpoint or performance standpoint, that they would keep him down. But it just ties into the whole, they're not going to catch Boston or New York. So there's not really an incentive to get him in to win more games. You're just going to be burning service time. But there is this other side where, look, he's playing out of his mind, so you might as well bring him up if he's ready. And that's always a tough balance that a lot of teams, especially those who aren't really contending at present, they always have to deal with that because you want to reward them for their performance, but there are those team control concerns that have to be addressed and considered too. And so that it's tough, but it's just going to be inevitable. He's playing too well.
Right, the numbers he's putting up down there look like when you're playing MLB The Show and you don't know what you're getting called up, that's exactly what it looks like.
If you're putting it on easy.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
On the subject of stats, I know Tuck's a big sabermetric guy. I like the plus-minus stat in basketball and hockey. Do you have a favorite sabermetric or advanced analytics stat that you put more emphasis on?
That's a good question. I haven't really thought about that a whole lot. I kind of think that I always kind of like to look at is batting average on balls in play, but not just that stat. Because I think it's too easy sometimes to look at, this guy's got a BABIP of 340. He's going to regress closer to that league-wide 300. Doesn't necessarily happen that way because a player who hits more line drives consistently is going to have a higher BABIP because line drives are a base hit 70-75% of the time. So if you've got a BABIP of 340 and your line drive percentage is, say, 15%, versus someone who has a 340 BABIP at 20 or even better percent, that guy at 20 is probably going to sustain it. And I don't think it's as much of a, quote, fluke as someone might say. So that one is always, anytime someone mentions BABIP, that I always go to what's their ground ball rate, what's their fly ball rate, what's their line drive rate, and what are the components that go into that. And, how does that translate into what, we're actually seeing? Is it something that is, too high, too low? Is there an expectation that it's going to fall back? I always like to think of it like that. And so I think anytime someone talking about BABIP, my mind goes there. So if I had to pick a favorite, I guess that would be the one.
That's a good one. I read Keith Law's book, Smart Baseball. And that's really when I started to get into the sabermetrics and the advanced statistics of baseball. It's really interesting because there's just a lot in baseball that you can track.
Yeah, I mean, every single pitch is an outcome in some way.
Right.
So you can look at that from, however granular you want to get in the data. You can just go and look at every single thing, and there's a way to compare it. And another thing that I think is helpful in that is that baseball has always been a game about stats. So even back into the 19th century, they were keeping score of a number of things. They were tracking, hits. They had a rudimentary error system. They had all that kind of stuff, and so it's easy to compare generations and players from the past because that language is very similar from 1890 to 1990. So I think that helps a lot too. But you're right. There's so much to track and so many different ways to split it that you can probably find some kind of stat anywhere that kind of catches your attention and surprises you a little bit.
Now, have you been kind of surprised by the amount of strikeouts now just skyrocketing?
Yeah, I think so. I think, obviously pitchers throw a lot harder today than they did even 5 years ago, where you've got so many guys who can throw 95 or higher. It's pretty crazy to just kind of see, back in like 93, 95, if you threw 95 miles an hour, like that was a fireballer. Like I always think of like the movie Major League when I think he's the Duke, the closer guy who dusts Jake Taylor,
Right.
And he's throwing like 95. Rick Vaughn is impressing guys because he's throwing like 96. And it's like, that's not easy to hit. But when guys Jordan Hicks is 105 miles an hour.
Ridiculous.
That's not fair, man. That's like, if you had, Kelvin Herrera throwing 5 feet closer to the plate. It's just like, that's crazy. So I'm on that kind of front with how hard guys throw nowadays. I'm not that surprised. Plus, specialists, you've got so many arms in the bullpen that you can just send a guy out there for 1 inning, 15 pitches, and let him let it fly. And when you combine that with guys who can kind of catch it on a slider and kind of get it, figure that out, it becomes kind of like wiffle ball out there. So right. I'm not that surprised. And when you combine all that with, I don't know, the old school guys would say, there's no shame in striking out, and I would probably an element of truth to that. But guys are also trading, contact for power. Right. And it's like if no one's going to worry too much about you striking out 150 times, if you're in a position to hit 40 homers, from a professional standpoint, why would you not try that? 40 home runs is pretty productive, even if you are striking out a lot. So I think both of those things combine and happen at the same time, and it's becoming an astronomical thing. And I understand the kind of concern behind it, from an interest standpoint. But I also think it's kind of interesting to see a guy go out and work that strikeout. It is, a little gratuitous sometimes.
One last question that I like to ask people that I know that are really into baseball is we have so much young talent around the league with Mike Trout, Bryce Harper, my favorite, Nolan Arenado. But if you were to start a franchise with picking one of these players, say you have the number 1 overall draft in a fantasy draft, who are you taking?
No overall in fantasy. I'd go Trout. I always lean to the best player, so I think Trout is still that, and he can make hit for contact, he can steal bases, he can power. He doesn't seem to get injured. I think he's got staying power there. It's not an exciting answer because it's Mike Trout. It's a really easy answer, but number 1 overall, that's what I would go with.
Yeah, me too. Tuck would take Spurs.
Yeah, I'm a Bryce Harper guy. I just like
I like Bryce Harper too, so I'm with you there too.
His personality, I think, transcends the game, and I know my dad is a very traditionalist baseball guy and doesn't like him because he thinks he's big and small, but I think that his personality is very marketable, and I think if you want to start a franchise, you want someone who's pretty marketable.
Yeah, well, Babe Ruth thought he was bigger than the game too, so
that's true. Yeah,
he was right.
So how did you end up over at Baseball Prospectus?
We've always done that. We've done this podcast for like 7 years now, so it's been something that's kind of bounced around. I was at Kings of Kaufman when I started it. Ended up at Pine Tar Press, which Dave Lesky and Clint Scholes were doing that. Then we were kind of just doing our own thing for a bit, and then BP went out and they were starting to try to branch out to these, these local markets with like Toronto and New York and things like that. And Kansas City is always we're in the Midwest. There's not much to do out here, so we spend a lot of time on the internet and on Twitter and talking about baseball. And I think that's something that compelled them to go out there. And so they approached Craig Brown to run the site. He recruited Lesky, who brought in Clint Scholes, and then they wanted to do a podcast. Well, we were already doing one, and I'm pretty tight with those guys, so they invited us over. And been about 2+ years now, and really happy with it. It's really nice kind of spot to land.
What do you have on this week's episode?
This week we talked with Clint Scholes about the upcoming Major League Draft. He gave us about half an hour of pretty good insight on the Royals' approach, guys who might be at that number 18 pick, and just a kind of general sense of what to expect in early June when the Royals start taking players and throwing that draft pool around. I think we're also going to talk a little bit about, we haven't recorded half of it, so doing that after this.
Yeah.
I think we're going to talk a little bit about that, the Tampa Bay experiment, an opener, because I just find that fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we'll get to that. It's not really a plan, but it's something that I'm going to try to weasel into it. But the main focus is going to be the draft preview kind of thing, which people aren't following Clint's goals. He's great about prospect stuff. He's talking to front office guys and scouts and all that. I think he's a real gem for Royals fans out there.
Awesome. Last question I have. We always ask in Kansas City this. What's your favorite barbecue joint?
Oh, that's not even fair. I would say Joe's. Joe's KC, or I still call it Oklahoma Joe's. It's always going to be Oklahoma Joe's to me. Just like Sandstone. It's always going to be Sandstone. But God, I mean, I'm a fan of Bryant's. I know some people don't really like Bryant's that much. I like Bryant's. I like Q39. Jack Stack's good. I mean, it's an embarrassment of riches on the barbecue side.
Yeah.
It's like my favorite child. I don't think it's possible.
Well, I'm with you on the Joe's. That's my favorite spot in KC.
It's good. I've
Yeah.
never had a bad meal there, so
Exactly.
it's pretty solid.
Well, thanks for coming on, Mike. We appreciate it. Make out KC Baseball Vault. The episode's going to drop tomorrow, right?
It'll be Friday the 25th, so whenever people are listening, it's either out right now or, it depends on when they're listening. But yeah, it'll be Friday the 25th is when we're targeting.
All right. Well, thanks a bunch, Mike. We really appreciate you coming on.
All right, you bet. Anytime.
Big thanks to Mike Engel for coming on, talking some baseball. KB and I really enjoyed it. We even share the same favorite barbecue spot, Kansas City Joe's. So we'll go ahead and move on to a new topic. Really, I thought this topic was dead, and a lot of us guys did too. NFL has a new rule change where they'll allow players to stay in the locker room for the national anthem, but if you're out on the field, you need to stand.
I don't know why this has to come out. Why? It's just the whole thing has been super annoying. Like I watch football because I want to watch football. I don't want to talk about political crap while football should be going on. It even came up like they didn't even start showing the national anthem until like 2009.
Right.
So why this shouldn't even be a big deal. And I think now demanding players like stand for the national anthem if they're on the field, I think that's a bad look for the NFL.
Yeah, especially since they've had problems with like domestic violence and all that, and they haven't really cracked down on it like they have with this issue. It just doesn't look very good.
It's the wrong issue to be focusing on right now.
Right.
Like, do you remember that John Mulaney sketch when he's talking about like when the Catholic Church changed all the thing at Mass, and they're like, oh, let's see, what problem can we deal with now? Problem 1, nope. Problem 2, the words at Mass. Like, it's just a weird thing to focus on right now.
It is.
I feel like like we were saying, this issue is dead, and I hate to get political because I don't know anything about politics, but I feel like this issue wouldn't have been dead. But you know how we all like to talk about the things that are important to us, and apparently this is super important to our president, so he keeps bringing it up. Like this is like top of his list.
Yeah, he said he wants to make it a deportable offense to not stand for the national anthem.
Deportable offense, and the only way people would know, and okay, people who are watching the games, I've heard people say like, I stopped watching the football games because the players won't stand for the national anthem. Like, here's an idea for the NFL. Don't show the players during the national anthem. Exactly. You can show the flag. You can show the fans. You can show the military people that are holding the flag. You don't have to show the people who, aren't standing. You don't even have to show anybody at all. You could show the flyover, You don't
even have to show the national anthem. Right. It doesn't need to happen.
This shouldn't be that big of a deal,
Like, we just solved the issue in 2 minutes. And the NFL somehow can't do that.
I heard this interview where, like, Colin Kaepernick used to sit during the national anthem, Mm-hmm. And then he talked to people.
It was a soldier.
I think he talked to a soldier, and the soldier said, I, like, respect your right to do that. And Colin Kaepernick's like, I really don't want to show any disrespect. I just want to show protest for the injustices that are around the world. And
police brutality.
Or that are around. Yeah, police brutality. Thanks, Shane. But the soldier was like, sitting down is more disrespectful to us. So if you take a knee, that's still like showing like
it shows reverence.
Shows reverence. So like he's taking a knee. I feel like people who get like worked up about this subject are the kind of people who get worked up about every subject, and they just like they don't really hear about anybody else's like why it should be making them angry. It's just like, I feel like this should be making me angry, so it does.
Yeah.
Shane, would you like to start us off with our final thoughts?
Yeah. What was the best thing before sliced bread?
Not sliced bread?
Yeah, I mean, they always say best things on sliced bread. What was before that?
Who's the comedian that says, yeah, I want to eat a sandwich, but I don't really feel like
Family
eating
Guy.
I really don't feel like eating 2 entire loaves of bread.
Yeah, it was a Family Guy cutaway, and the guy was at a restaurant, and the waitress goes, what'd you like to eat? He goes, well, I want a sandwich, but I don't want to eat 2 whole loaves of bread. Well, tough shit.
KB, what's your final thought?
My final thought is I'm not worried about Andrew Luck, so don't ask me if I'm worried about Andrew Luck, okay? I'm not.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure. I never thought I would be this excited about drafting an offensive lineman until I told Shane. I was like, I'm not really. I hope the Colts don't draft an offensive lineman. But you're like, the Cowboys drafted offensive linemen. They have a really good offensive line. So I'm like, you're right, Shane. They do have a pretty...
Well, when the Chiefs had a number 1 overall pick, they drafted an offensive lineman. So, I mean, hey.
It's the way to go.
The Colts are all over Quentin Nelson, and I'm 200% in. You know, when I was a Rams fan, I didn't care this much about the Rams, but now that I'm a Colts fan, the Colts are just as bad as the Rams were when I was a fan of them, and I am way more of a fan of the Colts than I ever was the Rams.
It's because they can't leave you.
Well, they could, I guess.
Well, if they go somewhere else, they're still not in St. Louis, so...
That's true.
Toby, what's your final thought?
I'm just going to stick with St. Louis sports and talk about how the Cardinals performed these last 3 games against the Royals.
2 games.
Well, they won the first. I was giving you that one, KB. But I think it's about time, since Yachty's injury. The Cardinals haven't really gotten to see a great catcher play, at least not in Bush. They finally got to see one, got to see the best catcher in the state, and go Royals getting their first road series victory.
Only their second series victory of the year.
No, we don't need to bring up that part.
Sad.
We'll cut that part that Karen said.
It'd be tough to be one of the teams that lost to him, I think.
It would be tough, but, every given day, somebody can win. And, it was just the Royals' time.
Every rose has its thorn.
God damn it, Shane. I was about to say that.
I don't know. I just don't know what the hell happened the second game when Jason Hamill decided to pull his head out of his ass and throw seven innings, 1 run. That's not the Jason Hamill that I know.
No, this was just a matchup of the Royals, who have historically played very well in interleague play, and the Cardinals, who historically do not play very well in interleague play. Plus we signed a broken Greg Holland, so...
Yeah, he's still helping the Royals win. I like that.
He's still helping. He's helping everybody win. And you know what? He has like something in his contract where he won't go down. So like he's got problems and he needs to fix them out, but he's not going to the minors to do it. He's going to do it up at the major league level. And so it's like, okay, like,
You just have to have him throw simulated games all the time.
And make him think they're real games, so pay like 30,000 fans to come in and watch it. And he's like, oh my gosh. He's like, okay, here we go. I'm pitching against the guys who I thought were on my team.
My final thought. I bought a Florida Fire Frogs hat, and I got a package in the mail today expecting it to be a Florida Fire Frogs hat, but it ended up being a red Binghamton Rumble Ponies hat, which is odd because I ordered a black Fire Frogs hat, and it was even tagged as a Fire Frogs hat. I called Lids, and they said, oh, we're actually out of that hat. I said, well, apparently you didn't run out of tags for that hat.
So, so they said, you know what? We're out of these hats. This kid ordered one. Fuck it.
Let's just give him one.
Rumble Ponies hat.
No, because you said in our group text, you were like, I'm thinking about buying a Binghamton Rumble Ponies hat. So apparently this whole NSA tapping into our stuff, Lids tapped into our group chat and was like, he didn't want this hat. He set out. Lids is protecting you from impulse buying. They're just like, no, he set out to buy this. He's buying this.
Okay,
I'm going to get that Florida Fire Frogs hat, though. But anyway, the Binghamton Rumble Ponies hat is a great hat to start off my minor league baseball collection. If you have any suggestions, let me know on Twitter at @thereal_TuckerF. And that'll do it for week 16 of Nosebleed Radio. I'm Tucker Franklin for Kieran Brennan, Toby Todd, and Shane Miller. We are Nosebleed Knowledge. Make sure you like us on Facebook, Nosebleed Knowledge. Follow us on Twitter at NosebleedsKnow, and we'll see you later.